we move on from money to Mr. JL Singh, who will be the moderator of our second session. The talk of the day is by Craig MacKey, who would be speaking on the ARHS archives, a collection of national and global significance. The moderation, Mr. JL Singh, a very active secretary of our society, is the moderator of this session. He is a mechanical engineer by qualification and a railwayman by by qualification and a railwayman by profession. Nevertheless, JL Singh's first love is rail enthusiasm. Having spent a lifetime in the railways, he has now retired from active service, but not from the railway world. One of Rail Enthusiast Society's founder members, he is the secretary and also editor of its quarterly magazine. And it's a really great magazine that comes out every quarter. We all look forward to it. As part of his work with the Indian Railways and Rights Limited, he has traveled widely and worked with railways and all related rail areas in India and all continents except Antarctica. Obviously, because Antarctica does not have a railway, sir. Giving him a comprehensive picture of rail activity and rail enthusiasm the world over. Over to you, Mr. J.L. Singh, sir.
Thank you, Manoj. We now move from one part of the world, the United States, to its exact antipodes, Australia. There can't be two places that are on exact opposite sides of the world as these two. Anyway, it is my privilege to introduce Mr. Craig MacKey, who's on the board of the ARHS, or the Australian Railway Historical Society. Craig MacKey was born in Sydney in 1966 and studied mechanical engineering at the University of New South Wales, graduating in 1989 with a BE and a BSc. Interest in steam locomotives developed during university days and has remained his passion ever since. As a professional engineer, Craig worked in the steel foundry industry, including a 12-month project based in Ohio, USA, the steel pipe and tube industry, and in sterile injectable pharmaceutical manufacture. Between 1998 and 2001, Craig was the author of 6 books on a variety of New South Wales railway projects. In 2008, Craig was offered the role of project manager to overhaul of Australia's most famous preserved steam locomotive, the 3801, which was delivered back into tourist operation in 2020 after a complete rebuild and heavy repairs to the original riveted boiler. In 2022, Craig was employed as Archives Supervisor of ARHS, managing its nationally significant collection. Craig is also a director on the board of ARHS and is currently in its chair. Craig enjoys travel, exploring and photographing what remains of the New South Wales Railways, and also dabbles in model engineering. With this brief introduction, it's over to you, Craig.
Well, thank you, Mr. Singh. And now I just want to check, can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes, see you and hear you. Go ahead.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Good, that's great. Well, thank you, Mr. Singh, and it's a great privilege to be asked to present to Rail 2000. And I hope that what I talk about will be of interest to everyone who's attending the convention today. Now, let's see if I can get the share screen to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, got
it's
it.
okay now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Perfect.
Make it full screen, please.
Let's make that full screen. Okay. Well, again, thank you all for inviting me to speak at this year's convention. And I'm here to talk about the Australian Railway Historical Society Archives, collection of national and global significance. And I'm currently employed as the Archives Supervisor. For anyone who may not know, the Australian Railway Historical Society is dedicated to encouraging and serving those with an interest in railways and preserving the historical record of the significant role railways have had and continue to have in the development of our country. That image shows the front of our premises at Alexandria. It's the only building in town with 3 locomotives painted on the front wall. Our society was established in 1933, and so we celebrated our 90th anniversary in 2023. We're very proud that we're still around. We are a not-for-profit society, so means that any revenue that we earn stays within the organisation. It's not, there are no dividends or profits dispersed to private individuals. Everything is reinvested to keep us going. We maintain the largest privately held record of the Railways of New South Wales. We publish 2 magazines each month. We operate a bookshop, cafe, and of course our archive, and we provide consulting services to industry related to railway heritage. As well as that, we provide information to people who might be interested in family history. They may have had someone who, a grandfather or a great-grandfather or so on, that might have worked for the railways and they want to find out more about their history. Modelers who are interested in building models of locomotives and railway rolling stock and so on. We have a huge resource of material that people are interested in. We commenced publishing actually in 1937. Originally, it all began with a single typed sheet on foolscap paper, which was distributed to members. And eventually, after the Second World War, we were financial enough to convert from a typed newsletter to an offset printed magazine. You've got to remember that this is in a period of history long before the internet, long before social media, where in sort of Sydney, which was the epicentre of the society in those days, not very many homes even had a landline telephone installed. So the prime source for people who were interested in what was going on the railway was to become a member of the society and to receive the bulletin. The production of bulletin was considered for many decades to be the lifeblood and the main activity of our organisation. Today, the magazine is rebranded as Australian Railway History to be a bit less cryptic in its title and to have a broader profile. And along with ARH, as we call it, a companion magazine, Railway Digest, which since 1963 focuses on the contemporary railways of Australia today. Digest itself began as a typed sheet, which was a little supplement insert in the old bulletin, and it has grown in its own to become a freestanding magazine. The publication of these 2 works is a source of great pride to our society. It's one of our main sources of income, and both magazines are available either in print or in digital format. From around the year 2000, the Society began to amass a huge collection of archival material. And the way things have worked out, the resources to manage the archives actually is significantly greater than that even required to produce the 2 magazines. I think it was it coincided also with the Society purchasing a property, and all the material that for years and years people had in their garages and their cupboards and their own personal libraries that began to gravitate to our premises. The collection now includes over 3,000 shelf metres of storage, which includes over 6,000 books. We have over 60,000 original engineering drawings, some 60,000 microfilms of drawings as well, over 3,000 8mm silent films, movies. Currently, the number seems to stand at around, we have about 1.8 million digitised images in our collection, and over 280,000 scanned documents of all types, timetables, railway instruction books, reports, documents, correspondence, you name it. Our research library, which is sort of used internally by our volunteers, but is also publicly accessible by appointment, is an ever-growing collection of books, reports and other publications. We have a regular volunteer who is actually a retired librarian, quite suitably, who carries out the indexing, checking and shelving of new editions. And the figure at the moment is around about the 6,000 mark, and it includes a very large collection of quite old and rare books as well, not only on Australian railways but international railways. We have a collection of rare periodicals and other rare books which form sort of an artistic display on one of the walls as you enter into our premises. And many of the volumes have the unique provenance of belonging to the former library of the New South Wales Chief Mechanical Engineer, which is something I've got a bit of a soft spot for, being a mechanical engineer myself. We have collected over a number of years some 60,000 original engineering drawings into our collection, and this has presented to us challenges in achieving efficient storage. When we first moved into our current premises, of course, all of these things were all rolled up in bundles on the floor, and we had to come up with a more efficient way of storage. And when I first became an engineering graduate and joined the workforce in the early 1990s, you could purchase custom-made racking to hang drawings. It was much more efficient than having drawings in the old-fashioned steel cabinets. Now, that was common in the 1990s, but in 2022, you couldn't buy this stuff anymore. So we ended up having to do our own drawings and get our own shelving and racking fabricated so that we could cope with all of these drawings. I mean, some of the largest drawings are 3 metres in length and require a great deal of careful handling to minimise damage. And of course, we're talking in an era now where the engineering industry really doesn't produce their original hard copy drawings on paper or other media. Everything is electronic nowadays. We have an estimated 60,000 microfilms that used to belong to the New South Wales Mechanical Branch. It was part of the Mechanical Branch Drawing Office archival record of their physical drawings. And these date from about the earliest drawing in that collection dates from about 1877 and leads right up till the corporatisation of rail freight in New South Wales in the late 1990s. And you take these cards out of the cabinets to look at them, and I mean, they're pretty nondescript on the face of it. They're cryptic and nondescript. And to be able to see what's in them, you have to scan them, digitise them so that you can see what the drawing is. And so I've just plucked one out of thin air. In the early 1890s, New South Wales imported from the Pullman Palace Car Company of the United States 8 luxurious sleeping cars, and they were deemed to be such an improvement on the older British-style rolling stock that we had at the time. So good that we actually copied them and manufactured our own for a number of years up until the early part of the 20th century. And of course, to do that, there was a significant number of engineering drawings of arrangements and detailed drawings prepared for use in the workshops. To ensure the long-term preservation of our collection, we've undertaken an intensive program of digitisation. Storing the material is one thing, but making it available to the public to give it a purpose, to give it a use for researchers and enthusiasts. In our time now, digitisation is the way to go. This process began in a fairly modest way around 2000, but has been continuously improved. For example, books and documents are scanned with a variety of scanners to PDF format, and as I mentioned, we have in the order of 280,000 documents currently accessible in the archive. There are many more that are not yet digitised, but the digitised count is around about that figure. And the photos just never stop rolling in. I have a sort of I guess it's an anecdotal thing that I can go out for lunch in the middle of the day, spend half an hour somewhere having a sandwich, come back into the office, and someone's come in while I've been away, and there's another dozen archive boxes dumped on the floor next to my desk with a deceased estate or a collection of photos and documents. It just never ends. And while it can be a burden, it's a wonderful thing, but it does require effort and some resources to deal with. One of the issues, of course, is having efficient and adequate storage. We remove all photographs and negatives, colour slides. I mean, can anyone remember what a 35mm slide is these days? We remove all of these things from their original legacy photo albums, and of course they come in all different sizes and shapes, and we store everything in standardised acid-free sleeves, which are then held in standardised folders. Now, it does come with a cost, but it's crucial when we have almost 1.8 million images. We have to find an efficient way to store these things. The original photographic material is digitised mainly using the Epson flatbed scanners, and whilst there are some variations in the standard, in general we aim to produce an A4 size image at 300 dpi, so that will dictate the file size. We scan to JPEG format, which is not an archival format in its own right, but it was a compromise that we decided on in view of the significant number of actual files. And of course, if anybody wants to use a photograph in a publication, for example, we're more than happy to go and rescan the original in high resolution in a format that can be edited appropriately. As I mentioned, that we have a large number of large format originals, and so we invested in a large format scanner 5 or 6 years ago, and so there are a number of volunteers who come in periodically to scan blueprints and drawings and maps and so on. And to get reasonable sort of image quality, again, we set the scanner to 300 dpi. And of course, depending on the original, I mean, some of these things are 3 meters long, 1.5 meters wide. You can end up with a 100 megabyte file, depending on the size of the original. And on the screen there is just an example of some of the many wonderful things. This is a hand-drawn drawing of a residence for an officer working for the railways, like a station master's office or station master's house, gatekeeper's house, attendant's house, because often the department had to build the place for the employees to live because they were stationed nowhere near a town. And a lot of these older drawings, drawn on cartridge paper, hand-drawn with ink, have been colour tinted with watercolours. They're quite beautiful. And it ranges from this more antique type material to a more perhaps familiar engineering drawing, drawn with ink on tracing linen, on wax linen. And this one that you can see on the screen is the cross-section and details of a typical locomotive roundhouse that was adopted in New South Wales after the First World War period. So again, this is part of our journey to digitise our drawings. The majority of our archive documents are housed in a climate-controlled gas fire suppression strong room, which contains about 3,000 metres of storage space. And we are currently embarking on an ongoing program to compile a permanent catalogue of all of our items. The premises we're in, we've only been there since 2019, and in the move, it became apparent that we had vast amounts of material that had never really been catalogued properly. So we're on a mission to correct that shortcoming. I talk about digitisation and so on. One of the things that I'd like to mention, and I'd actually like to pay tribute to 2 people in particular, Geoffrey Lillicoat, with assistance from his best mate Ben Lewis. Jeff took on the duty of learning in the early 2000s how to program HTML code, and he developed an in-house, not an internet, but an intranet, which is internally accessible on our computers connected to our server in our building. And Jeff has almost single-handedly been responsible for the digitising of that 280,000 documents. But to give you a bit of perspective, Jeff joined the society in 1958, so So he's currently in his 80s, but he's still going. He's in 3 days a week and continues on the tradition. Now, in the title of my presentation, I make a reference to national significance, and this was something that we achieved 3 or 4 years ago. We received some grant money, which enabled us to have our collection audited and assessed by a team of experts under the aegis of the National Library of Australia, and they regarded our collection as being nationally significant, and the engineering drawing portion was regarded as being globally significant. So this is something that we're extremely proud of. It does allow us a tick in a box, if you like, it gives us a certain amount of standing, so that if we want to apply for other competitive grants for funding, it helps us along there. But it's something that we're very, very proud of, and it's a tribute to the previous generations of the society, the original founders, and those that have kept the society going through all those decades since the 1930s. Now, all of this effort to digitise the collection would be wasted unless we had a robust method of cataloguing and searching and retrieving the items. So what I've got on the screen here is a screen from the computer showing the system that we use for cataloguing and searching for our digital images. And we currently use an in-house developed Microsoft Access database, and currently we've just ticked over the 1 million mark in fully catalogued and searchable images, but there are still currently another 800 or so thousand in progress, so it's a never-ending job. But provided the cataloguing has been done accurately in the first place, you can go into the system, you can type in a location, perhaps a photographer's name or a collection name, or perhaps a locomotive name. This is one I'm very familiar with, 3801. That was the loco that I spent 12 years of my life managing the overhaul of. You can type in a range of search terms, and up will come a candidate list of the images that were successfully found. So it's very powerful, and it's possibly one of the most highly used resources that we have. Now, I'm sure many of the people attending the conference today who will have experience with Access and will agree that it's a very powerful tool, but for our purposes it comes with the drawback of being somewhat complex and requires some specialised PC skills, and for us this places it beyond the level of a large number of the volunteers we have. We do have one person in particular who does some of the programming in the background, and in the background manages the new material as it's added to the database. And there are processes of error checking and spell checking and so on to make sure that stray or erroneous data is not entered, because as the old computing saying, rubbish in, rubbish out. We do anticipate that one of these days Microsoft will discontinue support for Access, which they've done for a variety of... I'm old enough to call them a software package, and all the modern people call them apps, but I'll use the expression software. And it'll happen to us one day, and we need to be in a position so that if that does happen, that we're not high and dry. And so one of the efforts that we're undertaking at the moment is to upload our digitised material to an online system. And after a lot of viewing of different systems that were available and weighing all the pros and cons, we settled on a system called Recollect, which I believe was written and is supported from New Zealand. So if you go and do a search, arhs.recollect.net.au, you will find us. Now, you'll probably see on the screen there that we only have about 160 photographs, a total of about 200,000 items currently uploaded. That's simply a consequence of the resources available to us. Again, we're very lucky that we have a volunteer who is a retired librarian and archivist, and Lynn. Lynn was actually on the working team at the University of Newcastle, who were the first, which is the first educational institution to use Recollect. So Lynn currently manages there's some massaging of the metadata to get it into the Recollect format, and she manages the uploading to the system. Recollect is now our content management system, and the big advantage, of course, is in this day of sort of global access to the internet, it provides access to our archives for ARHS subscribers around the globe. You don't have to be in Australia, let alone in Sydney, to be able to come into the front door of our building to ask to look at anything. You can sit down and do it from the comfort of home. Now, I guess I've probably gone through that fairly quickly, faster than the 35 allotted minutes. But what I'd also like to do for the members of the Rail Enthusiast Society, if anyone is interested, and the moderators can make the QR codes available should anyone want to see them, we'd like to offer a special discounted digital subscription to our two magazines, Australian Railway History and Railway Digest. The offer expires at the end of April this year. There is a QR code that you can massively download. Will take you to the site to take out a subscription at a discounted rate. So again, I'm sure that the moderators will be able to make this available to anyone after my presentation is over. So there's one separate QR code for ARH, as we call it, and a separate QR code for Railway Digest. Again, I would just like to thank everyone for the opportunity to present, and I suppose if there's any questions, I will do my best to answer them. I've just got to try and find a way to come back to you now. Let me see. Does that work?
Thank you very much, Mr. MacKey. You've given us a profile of, at least that which I know of, one of the best rail archives that I'm aware of. I'm sure there must be other archives all over the world, but I'm not aware of any of them. The archive that we have in India is certainly not maintained the way this one is. There are a few questions.
Well, I suppose I could actually add a few comments there. That's very nice of you, by the way. Thank you. As I hope attendees might be aware that the New South Wales Railways, of which we are the New South Wales division, and we are the division that created the society originally. After the Second World War, there were divisions in each of the Australian states and Tasmania. And we tend to be New South Wales centric for the reason this is where we are and it's the state we live in. Although we do in our archive, we do have a national coverage. And I suppose one thing that you might find interesting, of course, is that we have a lot of members who have travelled to India and South Africa and other countries who have significant collections of photographs that they took during their travels. When Steam finished in New South Wales in 1972, it was almost like there was nothing for anyone left to do anymore. So people began to travel to India, to South Africa and so on. And I guess 20 years ago, if someone had turned up at the Society with their Indian photographs or the South African or their New Zealand stuff, there wasn't a great deal of interest. But our view now is that we would rather take custody of those collections and ensure their preservation, because it's just, it's all part of the railway story. One other quick comment is that being a state-run, a government-owned railway, we've been, no names, no tack drill, we've been the lucky recipients of a lot of government records relating to railways that have come into our archive. But at the period in the late 90s when privatisation began to occur, that's when the flow of documents starts to slow down a bit, because being private companies, they're not terribly interested in sharing their administrative records with a third party. So a lot of what we have is related to the government operation. So I'll stop talking and let people ask questions.
Mr. Manoj Pandey is wanting to know that does this ARHS only apply to the New South Wales or the entire Australia?
No, we in an earlier period, yes, we did, but nowadays we cover all of Australian railways. The Railway Digest magazine, for example, has a national coverage, and we have material on railways in all of the states, and so yes, the question is yes, Australia-wide.
Mr. Venkateshan Anand has asked a question. He says, do you have anything about the broad gauge hydraulic locomotive rail cars that were supplied to the Indian Railways?
Oh, it's something I might have to take that question on notice, and I could possibly go back and check and let you know. It is a little bit hard to carry the entire archive around in my head with so much material. But if you like, if you give me a chance on Monday, I can go back and check and let you know.
Mr. Manikandan has a suggestion. He
Yes.
says that you have a very good system of cataloging and digitizing and so on. Would you be in a position to conduct courses for, say, organizations that do not have their expertise?
Oh, I think that's a great idea. I'm sure we could do something like that. That's an excellent idea. I think we'd certainly like to do that. I must admit that we've kind of had to teach ourselves. But one of the comments from the auditors that came and did the national significance assessment for us was that they thought that we had done a pretty good job under all the considerations. Because we're not working with a lot of capital. We are a not-for-profit after all, and so the vast majority of the work is carried out by volunteers with only a very small number of paid staff to provide supervision. But yes, excellent idea. I think we'd like to be involved in that.
There's an interesting question from Shubhranshu. He's asking, are owners of digital documents willing to share them?
Well, for anyone who wishes to subscribe to the society or become a member, you get access to the online archive. Again, it's one of those things. We have to generate revenue to stay alive, and so we charge an annual fee to be able to view the archives. So that's the best way to do it. Is to become a member and get access to the archives that way. And as time goes by, more and more material is being uploaded.
At one stage, you had mentioned a volunteer who comes and does the cataloging of the various books that you have.
Yes.
Of the total staff that you have, how many are regular full-time employees and how many are volunteers?
Currently, we have. Let me think. See, there are three of us who are approximately. Well, none of us are actually full time. We have a chief executive who's there 2 days a week. I'm there 2 days a week as the Archives Supervisor. We have an operations manager who manages the bookshop, manages the subscription system, so that the subscription database. So she controls the people who want to join, ensuring that the magazines are posted out to subscribers and so on. And we have some casual staff who operate the cafe. So it's three semi full-time and 2 or 3 casuals. So it's not a great deal. The volunteers probably number about 20 to 25. Not all there on any one day, but they're spread over 3 or 4 days during the week. So it is not a lot of people, but everyone is very passionate about what they do.
Now, what I've gathered, you don't get any government funding or anything like that. What are your sources of funds?
Well, that is true. We are not part of government. We are not part of the City Trains, the railway operator here. We are an independent organisation, and we all are also a not-for-profit. So our income comes from publishing and selling the 2 magazines by selling subscriptions to the society or membership. With membership, you get ARH, Railway Digest as an additional purchase. So the magazines are also stocked and sold in news agencies around the country. So that brings other revenue. We We publish books. We publish our own books, and of course we have a boutique railway bookshop. So we sell other publishers' books. We used to run tours quite frequently, but that has become a very difficult thing to achieve nowadays. There's a lot of competition in the tourism space, so we've backed out of that a little bit. So the publishing, selling of books, and there is a growing business in providing archival information to a growing heritage industry. Heritage architects, various organisations that do consulting work for the railways. It's a little. I rather enjoy charging government employees to come and look at their old information. It's a nice feeling. I mean, we can have very good years with that where we're just flat out doing information for the heritage industry, but then of course we can have a very quiet period. So the revenue is not uniform. We can have peaks and troughs.
Yeah, I'm asking this question because our society is always struggling for funds.
Yes.
I've asked this question about your source of funds because our society is struggling for funds. We are always short of funds. We are also not part of the government. We are an independent private society. So we have to look for funds ourselves. And we are finding it quite difficult to, let's say, have the necessary funds. Although we have survived till now, we are about 9 years old now, and we managed. But we do have difficulties. Because one area where I would say you are fairly well off is that you have a lot of volunteers. In India, the concept of volunteers is not there. So that gives us a problem. We have virtually no volunteers except people like me who are, doing it as a hobby, not really volunteering.
I should have mentioned that we have what we regard as our membership probably totals about about 1,300 people. So it's not enormous by any standards. So it's something we continuously want to grow, and that was also one of the reasons behind the online archive, was that it gets you over the national borders and state borders. It can bring you a global market.
You mentioned the 2 publications that you have, and you very broadly told us what each of them caters to. Could you give us a few more details of what is there in each of them?
Oh yes, well, the historical publication, Australian Railway History, but by virtue of its name, it's a collection of articles written by various volunteers and other contributors on historical subjects about Australian railways. Again, it's not limited to New South Wales. It can cover anything of railway interest in Australia, but generally the focus is on historical information. They're 36 pages in extent, full colour where it's possible. Railway Digest is more about contemporary railways, the railways now, some of the political and economic questions. Because in Australia, we are in somewhat of a renaissance period of railway construction. Metro lines are being built in various capital cities. We've recently had an extension of metros in Sydney in the last 6 or 9 months. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I call them trams. Everyone else calls them light rail. But in capital cities now, the tramways are making a return in a modern format. And so Railway Digest covers all these factors. It's basically what's happening in railways now, what's occurred in the last month or so. And that's the focus of those 2 magazines. They complement each other very well. And I suppose one way of looking at it is what is in Railway Digest now is next month it's history.
Okay. Okay, Mr. MacKey, thank you very much. You've given us a view of perhaps one of the better archives of the railways anywhere in the world. I do not know of any others, so I can't really comment, but I'm sure this is among the better ones. So thank you very much for giving us a bird's eye view of the archives, and I hope that we can develop such an archive even in India.
Well, please get in touch with us if there's any advice that we can give.
And we are making you an honorary member of our society for a year. So you have participated in our program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much then.
Thank you.
Moreover, we have a little time.
Yeah.
I think we can go through the result of the quiz and declare, give the answers and the result.
Yeah. Will you do it? Should I do it?
You can do it.
Okay. Jesus. Can you see my screen? The RES annual quiz?
Yeah, visible.
Okay. Yeah, right. So basically, we are just stepping in for Vikas Singh, who has used all his intellect and knowledge to make this quiz. And most of the quiz, I mean, I could answer one or two out of the entire set of questions. So I do not have the background knowledge to, enthusiastically present this quiz, but I do have to stand up for him and in his place. So I would just go to the first question.
Apurva, request you to maximize the screen.
Sorry, are you not seeing my screen? One minute.
Please go ahead, Apurva.
Can you see the whole screen?
You
Yeah, I
go
can
to
see the whole
view
screen.
and full screen.
Okay, just 1 minute.
Now I'm able to see the screen.
Okay.
I think it's
Now?
okay. Please
Yeah,
proceed.
okay. So the first question was that in which world of trains is the blue color associated between France, Japan, and Yugoslavia? And the answer was the blue train in France was popular for wealthy and famous passengers between Calais and the French Riviera. Blue train in Japan is a generic term for the sleeping cars, and the blue train in Yugoslavia was used by the former Yugoslav president Joseph Broz Tito. The second question was what makes Jatayu's meeting with Feluda and Topshe at Kanpur station while they are on the way to the Jodhpur special? And the answer is first ever appearance of Jatayu. That was the answer. For the movie buffs, a Japanese bullet train holds a unique record. And what is that record? So the answer is world's first zombie apocalypse experience for the travelers. Now, I'm not enthusiastic enough because I do not know what these things are, but I'm just holding fort for Vikas, who's doing something else right now. What is common between these stations? Cornaville, Louvain, Brussels, and Antwerp. So these are all featured in Tintin comics. Vikas has got the largest collection of Tintin comics in the whole world, so he's something of a record holder.
In fact, this collection is in 126 languages.
Across, yes, he's got it in different languages. The fifth question was, what is Jack Nicholson's connection with the movie Bullet to Beijing, which features train journey from Russia to Beijing? The answer is Michael Caine decided to quit acting during the production, and Jack Nicholson had to convince Michael Caine to come out of retirement to work on the film Blood and Wine, which is in 1996. Question number 6 was, which was the famous publishing house that had a fictional building named after it? So the editions Moulin Art railway station in the French edition of Seven Crystal Balls. So I suppose that's again a reference to the Tintin comics. Okay, the seventh question was, what unique distinction is held by the Viceroy special train service operated by the Lakindu and Tatrasa in Ceylon Limited? So the answer is that features uh, um, it features the commemorative stamp, which was held for the longest stamp in the world.
I would like to interject here and tell you that Vikas Singh is also an enormously good stamp collector.
Stamp collector, that's correct.
He has won various prizes in the philatelist world.
Yes. Okay. So the eighth question was, what is the common railway connection between Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, Parinita, Chinatown, and Rang De Basanti? So they all have railway scenes shot at Apta railway station in Maharashtra. Which railway tunnel was the inspiration behind Russell Bond's short story Tunnel, Tiger in the Tunnel? And it is the Kalka Shimla railway tunnels. 10th question was, what is common between Adana railway station, Nain Valley Railways, and Sapri Valley Sapri railway station? And they've all featured in James Bond movies. 11th question was, a railway station and adjoining tracks are center of the man-eating tiger till it is eventually killed, and a short story is written later about it. Which station are we talking about? And the answer is Mamandur, Man-Eaters and Jungle Trains by Kenneth Anderson. The 12th question is, what is common between Pacific 231, the Celestial Railroad, and the Eisenbahn Luftwaffe? So they're all musical pieces inspired by trains. And the 13th question is, what is common between Yume Koji Steam Locomotive Museum, Georgia State Museum, Goulburn Rail Museum, and Pablo Neruda Railway Museum? So they're all built around old roundhouses. The 14th question is, what is the infamous connection between Deutsche Reichsbahn, CFR, MAB, BDZ, Ostbahn, and the SNCF? So all of them ran Holocaust death railways during the Second World War. 15th question is, a railway station features in a series of paintings by famous artists. Which railway station and which artists are we talking about? So the station is Gare Saint-Lazare in the series of paintings by the French artist Claude Monet. 16th question is, which two unique distinctions are held by the 478-kilometer Adelaide to Perth railway line? So the answer is that this section of the Trans-Australian Railway can be seen from the space, and there are no curves on this line. The 17th question, what is unique about the movie The Railway Children? So the answer is the only children's movie to feature in the best British films of all times on the British Film Institute. The last question, which railway station inspired Ruskin Bond to write his most famous short story, The Night Train to Devli? The station is called Castro. So all these questions, people have responded to this, and the winner is Ashad Siddiqui 65@gmail.com, who's got 11 correct answers.
Ashad Siddiqui is a member of the Rail Enthusiast Society.
Okay.
He had, in fact, won the quiz last year also.
Yes. Right. Okay. And
I
runner-up.
think it is his 4th year running.
Okay. Then the runner-up is shubhyan.svnit@gmail.com with 10 correct answers. And thank you. This is from Vikas Singh. Yes. So this was the quiz that Vikas had shared with all of us. We still have 10 minutes. Can I start a photo show?
Okay, I would like to mention here that Vikas Singh unfortunately could not be with us today because some other engagement came up. Vikas is probably what you might call the hobbyist of the world. He has so many hobbies that if I start naming them, probably the entire 10 minutes will be over.
Yes, sir.
And it is not that he dabbles in these hobbies cursorily or just casually. He is top-notch in all of them. Two examples you saw. For example, he has an entire 100% collection of Tintin comics, and they are not in one language. They are in 126 languages. He's a philatelist of the highest order. He's a tea taster. He's a rail enthusiast. he's a rail photographer. He has claimed that he has covered the entire narrow gauge section of the Indian Railways when it comprised of 5,000 kilometers. Today, of course, very little is left, but the entire 5,000 kilometers when it was there, he covered the entire system. I think very few railwaymen have also done that. I would like to mention that Vikas is not a railwayman. He happens to be also one of the founder members of the Rail Enthusiast Society.
Yeah.
Therefore, many of his questions, even rail enthusiasts like us, found it difficult to understand, leave it unanswered.
Yes. So
Back
we
to
have
you.
9 minutes. Should I?
Yes, if you can cover,
Yeah,
if you can.
Yeah, I will just do that.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing some of my photographs. They're in a random order, but it's just something to fill time and enjoy the visual beauty. So this was a scene from 2006, and this is an evening in the Ghorpadi shunting yards. I mean, it's a goods intertransshipment yard. JLT yard is what the name was, and this is used to be the meter gauge interchange point because the lines on the left of this yard went to Down, which were always broad gauge. The lines on the right, which used to be meter gauge, they went to Miraj and to Bangalore from here. And so this yard was used for transferring freight from um, broad gauge to meter gauge and the other way around. And the name persisted. So even today, it's called GIT yard. What you see is, of course, dogs moving out of the way for a locomotive coming. And very uniquely, this particular yard had a two-way shunt signal, which you can see on the roof here. So if the lights were in um, a horizontal line, that means the loco had to stop. And if there was one position that you could fast shunt and you could slow shunt. So you had three ways of doing this. You could convey speed because the yard was very big. Something which is from last week. I was traveling on the meter gauge of Gujarat, and we could travel from Junagadh to Delwada, and this loco is just reversing from its trip, and it is getting ready to start the next day's trip back to Junagadh. Again, the same locomotive. This is Talala Junction. This is the reversal of the train from Junagadh to Delwada, and the Delwada branch is at the back. You can see the track curving on the right. That is a route that the train would take. This is one more crossing. This is at Sasangir station, and this is the train which is coming from Veraval, and it's our train is being held up so that there's a crossing. And this is one of the 4 or 5 meter gauge lines which are left in the country. So if you have time, please do it now because later on there is no way to say when these lines would be closed. And you can travel 160 kilometers for 35 rupees, 6.5 hours. I think there is no deal better than that in the whole of India. JL sir, just watch the time. Let me know if you are running. Something which is we have something called a Vari, which is the Varkari. It is a religious procession which starts in an outskirts of Pune and goes to Pandharpur, and hundreds of thousands of people walk this particular religious thing. So one of the places where they have a night halt traditionally is this place called Walla. So we were just checking the interaction of the Varkaris, the people who walk, the pilgrims and the railways, because at one point the railway line just runs close to that. So on the left you have a vehicle with which is playing religious music, and on the right you have diesel locos which are sounding the horns. It is just a wonderful scene to see. This is a scene from the Pratap Nagar narrow gauge diesel shed, and these are actually wagons which are, I think, on the way to get condemned. And this is some old structure which I'm not sure what it is, but you can see the modern broad gauge Pratap Nagar on the left, and this is just a very romantic sight to see. Uh, Again, a night scene of trains. This is at Vijayawada, and there's a WDS6 AD which is shunting rakes. Just something nice to see. This is a place on Konkan Railway called Anjani, and on the left is the 11086 double-decker train, which is running from Madgaon to Kurla, and that has come and stopped because the Konkan Railway is a single line section. So this is there are two trains which run the whole Konkan Railway as passengers, stopping passengers. So this is one of them, and this is just starting from Anjani. Of course, now Konkan Railway is fully electrified, and you do not have diesels running so many in those sections. But this was the time where you had absolute the diesel was the king here. This is a scene from the Pratap Nagar broad gauge wagon maintenance depot, and you have these wagons which are being maintained, and in front of the horizontal tracks are the traversers, so you can get one wagon out from this and put it in another bay. So or you take it to the opposite bay. You start on one side. Just an interesting way of looking at things. This is very close to my home in Pune. This is a place called Shindavane Ghat, which is one of the classic rail fanning sites. And this is the Karnataka Samparka Kranti Express to Bangalore from Delhi. And we've just on the mountain opposite a viaduct, and the train went by. And the people didn't they were just trying to understand how beautiful the landscape is. And this is, of course, climbing a gradient. This is from a trip that I did in September. We did an all India trip, which is Pune, Mumbai, Mumbai, Delhi, Delhi, Calcutta, Calcutta to
Ready, sir?
Chennai. Yeah, the time
Okay,
is done,
please.
sir. I just said the time.
2 minutes
Just let.
more.
Okay,
2 minutes.
okay. So this is from the second train of the thing. Okay, we did the entire country. So we did Pune, Mumbai, Mumbai, Delhi, Delhi, Calcutta, Calcutta, Chennai, Chennai, Trivandrum, Trivandrum back to Delhi, and Delhi back to Pune. So this is the thing. So there was 8, 9 nights. All nights were in the train. No hotel. We had only 3 bath opportunities for this round trip, and this is the second train of our trip, and we are somewhere near Gwalior. We are crossing the Chammal River. So this is one of the participants in our long train ride, and we had a lot of fun doing that. This is a scene not from Indian Railways but from Bangalore Metro, and there was a nice color combination, and the passenger talking to someone, co-passenger talking to someone. This is a scene from Konkan Railway, and there are, along Konkan Railway, there is a system of roads which,
Sorry for coming in
yes,
before.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
approaching
we'll
2
stop.
o'clock.
Yes, sir. Start.
Maybe you can
Yeah,
continue
yeah,
later
absolutely.
if you
Yes,
get
sir.
an opportunity.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Over to you, Manoj.
Thank you, Jail sir, and also to Craig for a wonderful session on the archives of Australian Railways, and then further to our friend Apurva Bahadur for his photographs, and in absentia, conduct of the quiz of Vikas Singh.